There is no surgical intervention happening to transgender children to change their sex. Here are the actual facts. Medical professionals.
She said. So how old are you? How old are you now?
I'm 18.
How old were you when you got top surgery?
I was 15 when I underwent the mastectomy.
15.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you started testosterone?
I was 13.
This bitch is wrong. I mean, we got someone with direct experience here. So I have with me Chloe and Buck. Usually when people talk about detransitioners, the first thing they think of, because you are a detransitioner, you are a transitioner. 30 years of transition experience, lived experience. The queer community, I should say, constantly silences people like you. Why do you think these people continue to lie about this?
I think it's for their own convenience, really, to save face. And I feel like they don't actually believe that it's not happening. They know that it's happening, and it's happening a lot.
Two things can be true at once. People can make mistakes, and sometimes people don't make mistakes.
That's right.
You can have both. Because all of this happened to you, you are taking a very firm stance. You're working on holding physicians and therapists accountable. Mm-hmm. Right? And hopefully the trans community as well, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about your whole experience on that? Because I know you've done some interviews with Fox News and other networks.
I'm suing my healthcare provider. I'm suing Kaiser. I'm suing the hospital that did my surgery, my gender specialist, endocrinologist, and the surgeon who were involved in this.
Wow. What do you think about that?
Well, no, I think it's important.
Yeah,
and again, I'll tell you, if it wasn't for this medicine, I wouldn't be here today. But that being said, I don't believe that they don't not need to be held accountable because they're sloppy.
These ideologues have basically made it so that the affirmative care model is just basically like one size fits all. And there's no like regards to like any comorbid conditions that might be behind dysphoria. I had a lot of issues that I didn't even know about or that arose while I was transitioning that just weren't really properly addressed.
My physicians were not sloppy. They made me go through a system. It took a long time for me to get it. I didn't get it in 15
minutes. And they only
minutes.
get more and more careless as
Oh my
the years go
God.
on.
It's because they're not being held accountable. And this idea of this community is always saying, we need to hold you accountable. We need to hold it. Well, doctors who do messy stuff like this, somebody needs to be held accountable for what happened to you. It's not me. It's not that. It's the system. The system is corrupt now because we just let everyone self-ID and be part of this whole thing without having any type of system that they call gatekeeping. And you know, I don't care what you call it, but that is an important, integral part of transition. It's actually, you know, a community that's always talking about lived experience and always talking about inclusivity and diversity, and then accept when that doesn't sort of go along with the narrative. And I think that's why people sort of say things about you and don't want to hear what you have to say, but they can't deny the fact that you're a living human being who got sucked into this.
Fact. Medical professionals are not giving puberty blockers to children who have not reached puberty. Fact. Puberty blockers are fully reversible.
Hormone treatment.
Oh God.
Is that true?
So I'm about like 5'3", 5'4". I was projected to grow to about 5'6" to about 5'8", but the blockers, I'm pretty sure.
Really? I didn't know that they did that.
I didn't know about this until I recently went through my medical records. I experienced some joint pains. I get back pain if I stand up for extended periods of time, unfortunately.
How long were you on testosterone? Also, that's not a puberty blocker, but that's an added.
I was on it for about 3 years.
3 years.
Some months.
Did they block your puberty?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I was on blockers alongside testosterone.
With the testosterone.
Yeah, they started like about a month before I started on the testosterone to like basically like clear out the sex hormones.
Wow.
Natural sex hormone production out of my body.
At the age of what?
13.
Oh my God. I mean, really, that's disgusting. That's child abuse.
Yeah.
That's actual child abuse.
While I was on the blockers, I would get really bad hot flashes too because it would basically put me into like a state of menopause. So I had a lot of side effects from testosterone as well, some of which weren't disclosed to me. Like, I remember like my endocrinologist telling me like, oh, like when I was 13, when I had the consultation, she was like, oh, this might affect your fertility. You know, because I was a kid, I was like, oh, I don't care.
That's right.
But then she was also like, are you aware that you may experience vaginal atrophy? Like, can you imagine like saying this face to face to a 13-year-old?
No. Do you think that they think it will hurt the trans cause if people like you speak about what happened to you?
Yeah, and as soon as I even started speaking about like the regret and like the physical side effects that I started experiencing, I got like a lot of backlash from people that I considered my close friends. Like it often came from like other like FTM individuals. They would say like, you were 13, you weren't 5 years old, you knew what you were doing to yourself.
According to science, your brain doesn't even fully develop until you're 26.
That is not a trans community. That is an ideology.
I've been doing this YouTube thing for a number of years now. Do you remember when Bria and Chrissy had that revenge porn case that made international news? news
That's
because it was the
right.
first case of its kind.
Yes, yes.
Chrissy was raped, was revenge porn. She was raped and then it was posted on the internet. There's this whole thing, and it turns out there wasn't even a law that actually prevented that from happening. So they were the ones that took the initiative to fight. And I think you're in that same position, and I think you're going to make history as well. And I mean that. I say that.
You mean a lot to me because you will do. It's so horrible when I think about what you went through at such a young age. But I think on some level you're so powerful, and you actually really are taking your pain and turning it into something so positive.
Yes.
And that's why I really have a lot of love for you and respect, because it's not easy what you're doing.
Fact. Hormone treatments don't generally begin until after 16 years of age. Fact. Sex reassignment surgery is considered at 18 based on making certain criteria. Fact. Gender affirming care is life-saving care.
Well, yes
Jazz
and
Jennings?
yes and
mean-
no. Yes and
yes
no.
and no,
Jazz
that's
Jennings
right.
had it at very young, and so
17.
young,
17.
so young that she actually, believe it or I think, could not get a neo-vagina, right, or something,
right.
or
It's
couldn't
not-
get.
I mean, at 17, she probably, if she hadn't gone on puberty blockers, she probably would have been developed enough to get like
to get it reversed,
Yeah,
inverted rather.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
they had to like take out tissue from her colon.
Oof.
My healthcare provider is just so awful that like I couldn't like, it was like a 1 or 2 month long wait to get like a gynecologist, and then that's for like a physical appointment. Other than that, I could get like a Zoom call with
Zoom.
them, but there was no like actual physical exam. It
But
just
what
kind of
if you
felt
were
like
going through something so insane? And so that's what people need to see. Okay, great, you're going to give this kid all this stuff, but you need to be going to a doctor constantly. And if there's waiting lists and you can't
and
get
they
in,
were like taking
What?
like my blood tests at first, and then they stopped after maybe like a year.
that is so dangerous. At 30 years of testosterone, I still get my blood tested.
So after I went
That's really
off
weird.
of testosterone, I basically had to like figure out how to navigate things by myself.
Wow.
And there was like no guidelines for people like me, and I had to like request blood tests from my endocrinologist,
Wow.
and they weren't like scheduled for me or anything. And eventually, like the last time I got like a blood test of like all my hormone levels was like more than a year ago.
You're a young person.
Yeah.
Also, you're relying on the medical field. If you know, the reason I know I'm a guinea pig on some level, right? So I had to figure out my own health on my own time. It's why I know so many things that most people don't know. But that being said, if trans medicine is so advanced now, why is somebody like you having to navigate the health space on your own and be all like? So let me just ask you this really quick: when you detransition, what happens? Do the doctors help you detransition, or do they just kick you to the side?
I mean, again, it was like I basically had to figure out everything for myself. It was like, I kind of felt like they were just like dismissing me, a lot of them. My therapist and like gender specialists, they just didn't know what to do with me. I mean, when I asked for those, when I got the results back from my last 2 blood tests, I specifically told my endocrinologist, like, I'm no longer transitioning. I want the levels, the guidelines back for like a woman my age. And I was given the guidelines for the average testosterone and other sex hormone levels for a teenage boy.
What?
They didn't bother changing it.
Oh my, that is
Like lazy- just pure
malpractice.
It's like a
laziness?
simple fix. You could probably just fix it with
It's
like
a
one click.
simple fix. That's right. Malpractice. That's what I say. That's
Exactly.
totally malpractice.
I'm glad you're suing them then.
And things like that, but I didn't
Yeah.
really know like
Right.
I don't really understand like transitioning is kind of like an inherently like sexual thing. It will
is.
affect your sexuality.
That's right.
In one way or another.
That's right.
Did you like guys before you transitioned?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
um,
So that's the same.
Yeah, it got more difficult because you know I started like actually looking like a boy. I like actually passed as the opposite sex, but I mean gay men just aren't like that common, and I wasn't like
Yeah,
actually male, so I had like
Right.
a very like niche appeal.
Oh,
And,
no,
like,
it's
The few
difficult.
people who were attracted to me and like knew that I was transgender, they were kind of creepy. Like they were like you could say like
I could see that.
chaser.
totally.
Tranny
Totally.
chasers.
And I just like all the people who were like interested in me, like I wanted nothing to do with because
Yeah.
it was all like sexual, and they wanted like nothing more, and it was just
Right.
like I got to like watch all my peers like get into like normal like relationships in
Yeah.
high school, and I just had like nothing, and it was devastating. These kids have no idea what they're in for. It's basically shown as like this rainbows and unicorns experience, but it's just every step of transition, whether it be like binding or like getting new clothes or something like surgeries, or every step of it is painful in one way or
That's
another.
right. Back in the day, we had to go through such a hardcore system, which is what I advocate for, and that's why I say
should be that way.
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. I'm not saying people shouldn't transition. I'm trying to make a safety system here so that this doesn't happen. You should have never had that happen. It worked out for me, and I'm the happiest tranny in the world. But that being said, it didn't, and and you should never have gone through that. You are going to change. So
I think
much
I think everybody's grateful for both of you because two things can be true at once.
That's right.
People make mistakes.
That's right.
But
It's not so black and white.
it's not so
not.
bad, which is funny because they're very black and white in this type of thinking, except when it comes to gender, where they're just all over the
it's
spectrum.
on both sides.
87 genders.
Yeah.
I'll have all of our links in the description below. Of course, with this handsome guy, I'll have his links in the description as well. And we're filming a bunch of videos, so make sure you check the description for their links and all the other videos we're filming together. Please, if you are thinking of transitioning, do your research, take your time.
Be Trans United.
Trans United is also something you started, which is an amazing group. I'll have that linked also. And I'll see you guys back here with hopefully a more fun video in a few days. I'll talk to you then. I love you. Love yourselves. Bye.